We all know this, balancing a career and motherhood, it ain't easy. But now there's a new book that hopefully can help. It's called Tough as a Mother. I love that title. It shares stories from women in the sports industry. The authors hope that it will help working moms navigate everything from mom guilt and career sacrifices to the challenges of breastfeeding that one mother calls hazing. Aimee Leone and Jenn Hildreth, I remember those days, co-wrote the book and join us now. Aimee is the Senior Vice President of Talent Relations at Fox Sports. Jenn is a sports broadcaster at ESPN, and they're both in the studio. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you.
And congratulations, guys, because
Thank you.
I love the structure of the book. Number one, you talk about the 9 core traits of motherhood. You picked 9 because it represents 9 months of pregnancy. I thought that was clever. Traits like sacrifice, humility, resilience, and one of my favorite words, moxie. But I loved all the different women that you talked to, and Hannah Storm resonated with me. She says she doesn't think that motherhood is one size fits all. It depends on the kids' ages and the situation. I love that she said that, and that sometimes it's okay not to be there. Aimee, you go first about what you said. You all offer this book as an offering of support and encouragement for mothers who are sometimes just overwhelmed.
Completely overwhelmed, right? When you're trying to, motherhood on its own is tough, and trying to balance it with anything else in your life is even tougher. And this book represents the sisterhood of support that Jenn and I wish we had when our kids were young. So my kids are a little older. I didn't have it. And then when Jenn and I got together, we talked about the challenges, and half a generation apart, she didn't have something like this either. So we wanted to build it for all the working moms and moms out there.
Your kids are potty trained and employed. Jenn, what are you thinking?
Yeah.
How old are your children?
So they're 2 teenage girls. One just graduated high school. And yeah, it was that same thing of understanding there is a real need to support working moms because we need them in the industry.
Is this still an issue that we are not supporting each other? It sort of bothered me that, we are still having this conversation, to be honest with you, about being judged, whether you decide to stay home, not stay home. It's still an issue, though, isn't it, as we sit here today?
I think so. And I think what we found a lot of times is the women really opened up to us.
Yes,
they were really honest and vulnerable, as you saw reading it.
Yes.
We'll open up to each other, but oftentimes in a broader community sense, there is not that support overwhelmingly for working moms. But we're starting to see more of it because part of it is we're demanding more of it.
Yes.
Moms are demanding it. They're demanding more support in the workplace. And then I think just by putting themselves out there, they're normalizing what it is to be a working mom.
Yeah, as Gayle mentioned in the intro, guilt. Many women spoke about guilt. Guilt for leaving, guilt for staying, guilt for just choosing a career path. And I do believe societal pressures, they culturally reinforce that guilt, whether we want to admit it or not. How do we reframe that?
Well, one of our moms, Andrea Brimmer, who's CMO of Ally Financial, she shared some stories about some wonderful things that her children had to say to her. Fast forward many years after their diaper days, and she said hearing those wonderful things took the chains off her heart.
Yes.
And we offered some of that in the book, where we share some stories from older kids, Jenn's kids, my kids, to help give moms who are in the thick of it kind of a line of sight to what their kids might be saying years later. And you know what? What we found, it wasn't that bad.
Exactly right. I like Andrea said, deciding that life is sloppy, it's not perfect. And once you reach that realization, that can be very empowering. I love that she said that.
Yeah, embrace the slop. And another one that we really like is the perfection is the imperfection. That was Alicia Montano, who Gayle is in the chapter on Moxie, which also, that's like strength of character, and Alicia is just so full of that. She is a wonderful example of trying to lift all other moms up along with her.
One of the things that struck me is the societal pressures that moms are under, but also the pressures that sometimes they put on themselves. Gayle mentioned breastfeeding as almost like hazing, and I found it remarkable that in 2025, we're still a country where we sometimes, we look at that as something that should not be done out in public or should be done on the job. What the athletes tell you about what that means to them?
Well, some of them took that as a platform, right? Especially we had some Olympians who talked about, not particularly in the COVID Olympics, not being able to have their child there while they're breastfeeding. So they took their situation and turned it into a mission and have made some real progress on that helps all working moms.
And some of them changed rules. I love Pam McGee. Her son said, "Why can't you be like other moms?" And she said, "Because I'm not like other moms. Your mom is a Hall of Famer," which I think says says a lot. And your son, Amy's son, Jay, not Jamie, said, I always knew my mom was different. She worked, so she wasn't there for school pickup. We had nannies. But looking back, I think that made me stronger, a little more resilient, and self-sufficient. That's got to make you feel really good for the times that you beat yourself up.
Yep.
Because one mom said you can't choose between your family and your job, because if you had to choose, you would choose your family.
Right.
There is a way to navigate them both, I think.
Yeah.
And we know some moms don't have a choice. Some moms have to work, right?
Exactly.
So we want to be mindful of everybody's situation. For some, it's a choice, and they try to balance the pros and cons. For others, it's just their reality.
Yeah. But if there's one message, we want it to be that you don't have to choose.
There you
that
go.
we are going to empower you no matter how hard it is. It can be sloppy, it can be messy, you're going to be imperfect, but you can do both if that's what you want to do.
Yes, there was one line, embrace the suck.
Yeah.
Embrace the suck.
You two exemplify the strength and resilience that we read about in this book. Thank you so much.
Bravo.
Aimee Leone and Jenn Hildreth, we appreciate you. Tough as a Mother is available now.